The holidays are coming. Find a gift for someone special with jewelry from Blue Nile. Right now, Blue Nile is offering special Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals. Save up to 50% on the season's most stunning trends. Blue Nile offers an endless selection of bold gold styles, gemstone jewelry, and classic diamond pieces. And now, for a limited time, get 36 months special financing on minimum purchases of $1,000. Restrictions apply. See BlueNile.com for details. That's BlueNile.com.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AEye Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AEye Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AEye Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to AEye Scouted on Anfield Index Pro. I'm Dave Hendrick, joined as always by Mr. Karl Matchett. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Bad. We had a, I think, solid result at the weekend. Liverpool won, Pep's parcel won at the Etihad in front of a less than raucous crowd, as confirmed by the Manchester City manager. You were at the game, Karl, so why don't you give us your thoughts on the game, but also just, you know, the experience of going to a game there as... Were you there as a fan? Were you there as a journalist?
I was working, yeah.
So what is that like as a journalist going to a big game like that? Is there any extra preparation? Is there anything that's different, say, than if you'd been working, I don't know, let's say you were working Luton Crystal Palace this weekend? Would there have been much difference in your own prep or the process of getting in, getting situated, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, coincidentally, obviously you picked Luton there. Quite the difference in approach. I was just saying to Guy beforehand, Luton was obviously my most recent game, so the difference of going to Kenilworth Road and then waltzing up to the Etihad is quite different in the approach, obviously. The biggest difference before you go in, if you're working at City, is actually where, obviously, before any press, any photographers, all that kind of thing, before they go into the stadium, you have to pick up your accreditation for the day. So you get your confirmation sent through during the week, and then you have to physically go and pick up your lanyard and your sort of pass as such, which allows you to get into different areas, and they colour code them all at every stadium for every event. So normally it'll be maybe near the ticket office or near the media reception or anything like that. Man City is actually on the Etihad campus at the academy pitch. So it's like over this motorway. There's a big bridge that goes from the stadium over to their youth campus and where the women's play their matches and all that sort of thing. So it's not even on the same bit of ground, basically. So it's a bit of a trek. Not the easiest to find if you don't know where it is, obviously. Other than that, I'd say the approach in terms of getting ready for work is all the same. I was there a little bit earlier this time just because of travelling up from a lot further away. But other than that, everything is the same up until you get into the press area, the working area, let's say inside the stadium, not the bit where you watch the match from. Now, the bit inside the stadium, the actual press working zones, can differ wildly from place to place, like a much more newer or modern at the time when they were built compared to other ones or the old stadiums. They can be like very spacious, very well laid out. It's obviously thought of and built in a modern way, whereas plenty of them predate internet, let's say. So there are certain considerations and add-ons that they might have in certain stadiums, obviously. So the Etihad, I would say, functionality-wise, is all fine. Like it was very, very nice. It was well laid out and all the rest of it, but it was pretty small. It wasn't like a very spacious place like, let's say, Arsenal Stadium, the Emirates Stadium. At the top end of the scale, let's say in England, you've got probably Wembley, where it's like two people sit on a desk and that's it. It's like really, really spacious, but that's a very specific ground, obviously. So City's is not quite like that. It is certainly a little bit more cramped or crowded. Obviously, this was a very big game as well, so extra press were there. That's a consideration that some of them have to take into account as they progress and as they get bigger. Luton, obviously, another example of that, but starting from a smaller point, and they had plenty of work to do to the stadium before they could even host a game in the top flight. So I wouldn't say that there were huge variances in any kind of experience, other than you can tell sometimes when a team has not been, let's say, the very biggest to begin with, and they've had to make themselves bigger or appear bigger or be better set as they progress over the years. That's possibly something that you can say is evident at the Etihad. The match itself, I think you pointed out, the atmosphere was not electric, let's say. Partly 12:30. I think we can all agree that 12:30 games are generally crap for atmosphere. City as a home crowd is not always the most vociferous anyway. So those two factors together didn't really make for the greatest of occasions either.
Apple Card is the credit card created by Apple. You earn 3% daily cash back up front when you use it to buy a new iPhone 15, AirPods, or any products at Apple. And you can automatically grow your daily cash at 4.15% annual percentage yield when you open a high-yield savings account. Apply for Apple Card in the Wallet app on iPhone. Apple Card subject to credit approval. Savings is available to Apple Card owners subject to eligibility. Savings accounts by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, member FDIC. Terms apply.
Yeah, I mean, you're never going to get a great atmosphere at 12:30. You're just not, because people aren't long enough out of bed. They haven't had enough time to wake up. The other thing with a lot of those bigger games, and I've seen a lot of City fans complaining about this, is if you're not one of those that has a season ticket, and obviously most of their season ticket holders live in Abu Dhabi and never set foot on the ground, the ticket prices for games like Liverpool are extortionate. 75 quid, some were saying, was the cheapest ticket they could find. And they were saying that because of the way City do it, like they don't have a ballot the way we have a ballot. They have a system where you pay, I think, £35 to become a member. And if you attend 5 games in a 12-month period, you're then eligible to get tickets for the bigger games, which are Liverpool, United, Arsenal. I assume Chelsea, Spurs are also included in that. So City fans were arguing that the reason the atmosphere was poor was because it wasn't City fans. It wasn't the hardcore fans at the game. And there's probably some truth to that. We hear similar moans about sometimes the crowd at Anfield. But at the end of the day, like, if you go to Anfield, it is often the day trippers that sing the loudest, because it might be their only opportunity to get to a game for 6 months or whatever. So I think the City crowd in general are just not great. I think there's probably an apathy about them where, like, they've won an awful lot over the last 10 years or so, 12 years if we want to go back to the first FA Cup that they won. There's probably some that are just, they turn up and expect City to win. And because that's all they've known, because they've only become City fans in the last decade, either because of their age or because they're just that type who latch on to a successful team. So they probably don't feel the need to really create much of an atmosphere there. And we've seen that this City team, they're not affected by a lack of atmosphere. If we think back to the COVID title, which is the 21-22 title, where there was no fans in the stands for 4/5 of the season, City were the only team who weren't affected by that, because their football is just so calculated and so cold-blooded that they're not a team that's really driven on by the fans. They don't need that extra push, whereas we, under Jurgen, have typically needed that extra, momentum of the crowd. So there's probably a multiple array of factors here that are leading to the atmosphere at the Etihad not being great. The key question, I suppose, with regards to you working there on the day is, what was the spread like? Was there food laid on, and if so, was it of a decent standard?
That is a key question. The pre-match food was all right. It was very tasty. It was a bit odd in terms of selection, options. I think because it was at 12:30 and people were arriving there from I don't know, I suppose probably sort of 10 o'clock, something like that. It was kind of a mix of between breakfast and lunch on offer there, which obviously if you go for a 3 o'clock or a nighttime game or whatever, it's a lot more set. So this was kind of a mix between, you can have, a bit of sausage and egg, or you can have vegetable lasagna kind of thing, or you can have both of them on the same plate. So a little bit weird. But also what Man City do have is a big sweets bank, and you can basically take a bag and fill up with whatever sweets you want. So for children like me, that's very, 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 very good. I'm very thankful for that.
You'd want to be bringing a rucksack and filling them full, filling about 10 bags full and bringing them home with you. Right, the game itself, Karl. A 1-1 draw is a really good result for Liverpool at the Etihad under any circumstance.
Yeah.
A 1-1 draw when you don't play particularly well for large stretches, when you have multiple individuals who don't perform to the level we know they're capable of, I think that's an outstanding result, personally.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, I think it's very difficult to say, the tactics were right or the tactics were wrong, when ultimately you come away with better than you might have expected, or better than most teams will this season, and you ended their long winning run at home and all the rest of the stuff. But I did think it was an odd approach. It's one of those games where it really could have gone either way just by really tiny details. Like, you would not normally expect Alisson to make as many, let's say, errors of judgment or nearly mistakes or anything as he did, especially with his footwork. And yeah, Alisson kept us in at 1-0 right before we equalised. So it was a real one of those kind of old-fashioned top four Premier League games between, Arsenal and Liverpool and United and Chelsea, where everyone is almost as good as everyone else, and kind of the teams cancel each other out without going for it and think, well, we'll settle this another day. It was a little bit like that, I thought. But we got the goal that we wanted, and we did hang in there, and we kind of therefore must have had the right approach. But maybe not if things had just gone very, very slightly a different way, So I think sometimes you just need to kind of take the result and take the fact that it is a really good result, like you say, and not worry too much about how that was attained.
Yeah, I agree. That's the thing. I mean, in an away game against a Big Six rival, the result is all that really matters. The performance is kind of irrelevant. Like, for example, we drew away with Chelsea on the opening day. Now, in hindsight, given how poor they've been, that doesn't seem like a great result. But the bottom line of it is, we went there, we were outplayed, and we came away with a valuable point. So, in context, I think it was a good result. Again, with this one, you look at that first half, and we were quite critical on Raw of our performance, of the setup, of the fact that we were a little bit naive in the game. And in that first half, the only real chances they had, including the goal, came from our sloppiness. Alisson had the loose pass to Foden, which Foden then just passed back to him. Haaland had a half chance that came from sloppy defensive work. There was the Curtis back pass to Alisson that put him under pressure. And then obviously the goal. Now, on the goal, again, I would say the naivety is Alisson trying to go with that long kick, the quick attack, which we've seen work, obviously, multiple times in the past. But when you look up and you see Salah and you're going to launch it into space beyond for him to run into, and the closest player to him is Jeremy Doku, who might be quicker than Mo, it's probably not a good idea. When you've been under pressure, it's also not a good idea, because what you should be doing there is slowing the game down, taking a bit of the sting out of things, and giving your defence a chance to push well up the pitch so that you can get reset. That's Alisson's mistake. The kick is just unfortunate because he slips as he goes to kick it. I don't think the kick is so much of a mistake as just that the decision that he made. And then it's dreadful from Dominic and Trent. It really is dreadful to be dribbled past by Nathan Ake, who's a very, very good player, and had, I thought, an outstanding game, could easily have been man of the match. It's just really lazy defensive work. And we saw that a few times from Trent against Doku. I mean, dribble past 7 times in a game. That's an awful lot. And I get that he got the goal and there were parts of the game that he did very well in, but I didn't think he was anywhere close to man of the match, personally. And Dominic, again, it's one of those games where he looks really tired. He looks like a guy who's played too much football already this season. And when you factor he's played every game for us, he's having to carry an enormous load for Hungary. I'm hopeful that this last game coming on Thursday night, he won't even make the bench because the lad just needs a couple of days to rest and recover. But those two on the goal I thought were particularly poor. They go ahead. We had some chances in that first half. There's the Darwin header, which I think he actually does well to get on target. I do wonder if he'd left it, could Matip have gotten his head to it? Matip obviously had been brilliant in the build-up to it. And then there's the moment where Dominic kind of bursts into the box and slips a ball to Darwin when he might just have been better off having a shot and hoping for the best. Maybe it would have taken a deflection and flown in or something. But he put Darwin in a position where he was never going to score from. We had the one where Darwin drove at them, and rather than shooting from the edge of the box, which might have been advisable, he laid it off to Salah, and in the end it came to nothing. We seem to be...
Are you that person who has everything? The coolest merch and those must-have fan threads? Well, over at our Anfield Index shop, we've gone that extra mile when it comes to pimping up your Liverpool collection. From our popular range of bespoke design t-shirts, sweaters, hoodies and hats, to our signature edition mugs, prints and coasters, all provided with fast worldwide shipping. We have something for every red. We also stock official LFC merchandise and are licensed with the Premier League and UEFA to sell official iron-on shirt badges and sleeve patches. As a listener to this podcast, you can get 10% off everything with coupon code AIPRO10. Just head over to AnfieldIndex.shop or find us on Etsy by searching for Anfield Index.
We seem to be able to get into the right position, just not able to make the right decision in the final third against them in that first half. But second half, I did think we were a bit cleverer in how we went about the attack.
Yeah, a bit better. I think that there were a few things changed in terms of our build-up play as well. I thought Trent, getting beaten one-on-one, like by the dribbling and all the rest of it, that's fine. Like, Doku had a good game. You can't stop everybody every time if you're not going to resort to loads of fouls and stuff. But I thought Trent did really well in terms of making sure that he was in that spot. Because obviously our plan there for Doku was to double up on him and force him inside and force him to do something else. And Doku didn't have any like blistering shots. He didn't have any clear angles to square to someone unmarked. He didn't really have... He set up a couple of shooting chances, but they were like lays across the edge of the area and then nobody closed down. I thought Trent did what I surmised to be the job quite well, even though he didn't win all the one-on-one battles. I also didn't think he was man of the match. I thought Van Dijk and Matip were brilliant in the middle. I probably would have given it to Matip out of the two, but I thought that they were our two best players anyway. But I thought Trent did what his defensive job was really well, to be honest, even aside from just not stopping a really good in-form, very, very quick dribbler. I don't think that's the only thing that you can judge him by, really.
No, but like before, there was some really lazy sort of, like in the first half when Curtis was coming across to help him, and Curtis was cutting off the ability for Doku to come back inside on his right foot. Yeah. I just thought Doku found it a little bit too easy to get to the byline and get round Trent.
That's fine, and I don't think that we'll change that of Trent, to be honest, because it's just not, his immediate thing that he does and that he reacts to really, really quickly, like some people do and some people don't, and I don't think we'll see that changed from him. So you kind of have to build that in, if anything.
But it could be worse. He could have been sent off after getting roasted by Anthony Gordon. But the second half, Jurgen starts to make changes, and one of the changes he makes is he brings on Ryan Gravenberch. And defensively, he's still got a long, long way to go. But there are just these flashes on the ball that are so enticing. They're the reason people have been so high on Ryan Gravenberch for 5 years now, since he came into the Ajax squad. And when he picks that ball up, now we've almost conceded a goal. We should have scored. Diaz blows the counter-attack by underhitting a pass. They go down the other end. They should have scored. Virgil and Ali combined do really well. The ball gets played out to Gravenberch in a nondescript area of the field. There doesn't seem to be any immediate threat to City. He's faced up by Rodri, and he makes a decision that you can't stop me. I'm going to run past you. And then you've got to try and either foul me, which is going to be a yellow card, or your defense is going to be scrambling and everybody else is going to have to readjust, and someone's going to have to come and meet me, which means that there's going to be a spare man somewhere. And he just glides past. And the phenomenal thing about Gravenberch is he has this change of pace where it doesn't really seem like a change of pace. Like his running motion doesn't change. He doesn't immediately look like, when you see some players sprinting and everything's going, arms and legs are pumping. He's not like that. He just glides across the ground, goes past Rodri as if he wasn't even there, picks the right pass to Diaz, plays it in stride as well, which doesn't give the defender a chance to get touch tight to Diaz. Diaz then makes a strange decision. I'm not sure who he was trying to play that pass to, because he kind of played it between Trent and Mo. Yeah. Now, it worked out brilliantly because Mo had to come out to get the ball. The defender has to step with him. Cody Gakpo makes an outstanding run, knowing he's not getting the ball, makes that run, and the centre-back has to drop with him. And that creates this lovely little pocket of space for Trent to step into. Mo lays it off to him, one touch, and it is a gorgeous finish. Like, if any midfielder in the world scored that goal, Karl, we would be lauding it. I know Trent is a special player, but, for a fullback to score that goal from that position, now I know he does play in midfield, and this is what I said to Trev, that is a real midfielder's goal. That's a Gerrard type of goal. It's a Kevin De Bruyne type of goal. To step into that space, touch and finish with that kind of venom on the shot. And he knew it was in as soon as it left his foot. Like, he was away to celebrate. It is a gorgeous goal.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a very clean strike, I believe we'd term that one. I think Gerrard was the immediate comparison that came to my head. Szoboszlai probably strikes it quite similar to that as well, to be honest. I think it was about the first time that Trent had got that high up the pitch centrally as well. Like, there was a couple down the flank, obviously, in the first half. He won a corner. I think there was a cross from deep for the Darwin header, I think, as well. But centrally, he'd been quite reserved until the latter stages of the games. It was really only those first few times that he got forward. So it was obviously very good to get the reward, very good to be opportunistic about it as well in terms of picking his timing and his run. And yeah, perfect strike. Had a really, really good view of that one from IC.
That's I really like that aspect of Trent's game where he's central in the early phase of the build-up, and he's moving wider in the latter stages. Like, when we're in the final third, he's generally stepping into a wider area to access that crossing ability he has. But what will really take his game up another notch is when he gets more confident in that ability to get central, high up central, on the edge of the box, and find those little regions of space that open up, reading the defence, understanding where he can make a run to, and there's going to be space. And we've seen great midfielders over the years, like Lampard and Scholes and Gerrard and KDB and others, get a lot of goals by just having that patience to not burst into the box, to time the run, read the defense, and understand this is when I need to go and where I need to go. And when you've got players around you like Mo, like Szoboszlai when he's on the pitch, they're going to be able, like Alexis as well, they will find you if you time that run right, and you're going to have the opportunity to get your shots away. And as Trent continues to evolve, and let's not forget, he's still a baby. He's only 25. Like, he's got years left. He hasn't hit his peak yet. He is going to get infinitely better when he figures out, from a midfield perspective, when and where he needs to be at all times, because it's still quite new to him. He's got, 20 games or so in this kind of role. And when he gets the balance right of when to get wide and use his crossing ability, when to be central and be a goal threat, and when to hold, which I think he does quite well now, and be the recycling option, when he gets the balance right, he is going to be fairly unstoppable in that position.
Yes, and for us then it still comes down to sorting out whether that's from that position or from right back moving into that position, which will have a big knock-on effect on quite a few other things as well, least of all our transition defender.
Agreed. I would rather see him starting in the midfield. I would rather see him starting in a double pivot.
I think we will see him there before long, don't you? Even if it's another season down the line or so, I think eventually he's there sooner or later now.
I think so. I think you put him next to a 6, you shove Alexis forward as an 8 in a box midfield with Dominic, 2 up front. You bring in a traditional right back. Whether it's an attacking option, I don't know. It might be someone who's more solid defensively. But I do think that's the next evolution of this team. We're still a couple of pieces away. I wonder if Klopp would like to see what it will look like if he gets a defensive midfielder and that kind of left-footed centre-back, left-back hybrid. Maybe he sticks with this a bit longer. But those players are hard to find. And at the moment, we're being linked with a couple of left-backs, like attack-minded left-backs, which maybe points to Trent is going to be playing in midfield and a more defensive right back might come in. So we'll still have a bank of 3, then Trent and a holding midfielder. And then Trent can, from that midfield position, he can provide you width on the right in the final third. Dominic can also do it. Mo can drift out there. The left back will provide the width down the left. And that's maybe where we go next with this. That draw, obviously, we dropped a spot in the Premier League table over the weekend, Karl, but I have to say, looking at the table, we're 2 points off top. And when you consider the fixtures that we've had, we've been away to Chelsea. They're one of our biggest rivals. It's always a tough game when we go to Chelsea. We've been away to Newcastle, which is always a tougher game. We've been away to Wolves, who beat City at home. We've been away to Brighton, who are an excellent team. We've been away to Spurs, who are an excellent team. And we've been away to City. Like, to be second when all your toughest games, bar Villa, were away from home, I think that's really impressive. We still have all of those teams to come to Anfield, which very much stands in our favour.
Yeah, I mean, we've got 4, let's say, hard away games left this season, depending on how you want to term them. Obviously, we have to go to Arsenal, we have to go to United, both of those after the turn of the year, and the away derby. And then whichever one you want, like it could be Villa, it could be West Ham. One of them at least is going to be a difficult game. But by the time we get to at least 2 of them, if not 3 of them, that's like the final stages of the season. And some teams will be exhausted and done. Some teams will have finished their season. Some teams will have other objectives by that point, whether it's a European trophy or whatever it is. There's not necessarily going to be all focus on every single league game at that point. We would think ours will be one way or another. So yeah, I think it's a really, really good first 13 matches we've gone through now in league terms. I think it's really, really good for the season as a whole, to be honest, compared to what I was expecting or putting as the par for the campaign at this stage in terms of results. So yeah, I think same as we've been saying for the last few weeks, to be honest, quite a lot of reason for optimism.
Yeah, when you compare that to Arsenal's away games, they've been to Palace, they've been to Everton, they've been to Bournemouth, they've been to Chelsea, they've been to Newcastle, and they've been to Brentford. They've had a much easier slate than we have. Like their toughest games, Tottenham and City, were both at home, and we haven't had those tough home games yet. But we've had all the tough away games. Well, most of them, like you said, there's 3 or 4 left. I think that Villa trip will be tough because they've been outstanding at home this year. And just on Villa, I know it must be a source of pain for you at the moment, but 40 games in the Premier League under Unai Emery, 80 points. That's a 76-point pace across a 38-game season, which gets you third in most seasons. They were trending towards relegation when he took over. Just as an aside, Karl, and I know you're not his biggest fan, but he has done an incredible job there. And it's very hard to look at any manager in the Premier League over the last 12 months and say, you've done a better job than Unai Emery.
Well, to be honest with you, Villa are the second team I want to talk to you about. So we may as well just go straight into that now. Another very good result at the weekend by the own admission of club and fans. They didn't play well and somehow took the win. I didn't watch the match, so I'm not going to comment on it just yet. They beat Spurs 2-1 and have got above them into 4th. So that's what I want to ask you about, basically. There's been, obviously, because they've gone 4th, because they're level on points with ourselves, 1 behind City, 2 behind Arsenal, lots of people now saying, oh, Villa are going to get 4th. Villa can get 4th. Villa are best place for a 4th place team. And I want to talk to you about this. And I'm not Unai Emery's biggest fan. And I say this for the same reason every single time. And I'm going to bring it up now because I think that this is a core part of the argument why I still say Villa are not getting 4th, right? The reason I don't think Unai Emery is as good as comments make him out to be, or reputation makes him out to be, or anything else, is because he has a very, very set way of going about his seasons. And I don't think that they are conducive to winning things. League titles, obviously, we're talking about here, or getting ahead of where you think you should be. Obviously, we know he's a very, very good cup manager and he's done really well in Europe. That's absolutely correct. And again, leans into this, what I'm talking about, his way of structuring his seasons, his way of playing at home and playing away from home. Aston Villa right now are 4th. So numbers-wise, they are there. They've won 3 games away from home, which if you say that we're now just over a third of the way through the season, it doesn't obviously work out quite this linearly, but they're going to win just under 9 matches at the current rate. So they might get to 9, but they'd at least be on 8, let's say. To get 4th in the Premier League up until last season, and from the campaign where Leicester won the title, you have to win 9 away games or 10. There was one season Spurs came 4th and won 11 away matches. That is a lot of away games to win, right? Last season, I think it was 8. But otherwise, it's almost always 9 or 10 matches away from home in the Premier League. So over the last year, since he's joined, obviously, Villa have won 9 away matches. So again, he's right on the threshold there or thereabouts. If they can continue that consistently for another 2/3 of a season, which Villa have not done before, right? To get the last 9 games away from home that they'd won, this team, obviously not this manager, you'd have to go back quite a while, right? Unai Emery, home, pretty good, almost always. Europe competitions, again, home record, really, really good. Away from home, not. And I take this all the way back to his career in Spain, to his career even in France, where he certainly got that number of wins, but still wasn't enough to get him the title. In 15-16, he's manager of Sevilla. They won 0 away games. This is where it came to my attention, right? Obviously, it's an anomaly. I know that. I understand that and accept it, but it's still true, right? He won 0 away games all season long. The following campaign, he's obviously got a trophy-winning team, right? Because he's doing well in Europe. The following year, they won 9 away games. So again, you're right on that level for Premier League, but this is in La Liga. And he didn't get top 4 there still. And then he's over in France and he's won 14 away games with PSG, but it's with PSG and he didn't win the title. Obviously, then he does win the title. Again, it wasn't an immaculate away record by any stretch of the imagination. Then he's with Arsenal. His full campaign with Arsenal, 7 away wins, outside the top 4 again. It's an ongoing theme over and over and over and over and over again. Villarreal, before he came back to England, 7 away wins again, 7th in the table in La Liga. There are a lot of beatable teams on the road in La Liga, especially down at that bottom end. He consistently does not win enough matches away from home to be considered among what I would term the very, very best managers. Or,
hello, I'm here to annoy you. I'm here to annoy you into listening to more of me and more of others on EPL Index. We don't just have the Anfield Index stuff. We've got EPL Index as well, which covers the entirety of the Premier League. And we have 3 podcasts and a whole bunch of really good writing on EPLindex.com. The podcasts are my own two-footed podcast, which is every day at 4 p.m., Monday through Friday, covering the whole league. We have A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. You know Tadiwa, he does Anfield Index. He presents A Tad Predictable before every Premier League match week. And then Kevin DeVries and his crew on the EPL Roundtable, they're every week after the Premier League match week. So make sure you listen to everything we're doing on EPL Index and follow us there on Twitter at EPL Index. Thank you. Bye-bye.
what I would term as having a team capable of getting enough points across the course of the campaign that you're likely to be in the top 4. Now, we've spoken at length this year about the fact that it could well be a top 7 now, a big 7, let's say, and that's not including Villa. It's Arsenal, Man City, it's Liverpool, Man United, it's Chelsea, and it's Spurs, and it's Newcastle as well because of the money. So let's say a couple of them don't do well this season. Like Chelsea is still down in 10th. I've got a friend who supports Chelsea who's still convinced that they can get 4th and at the very least will be a top 6 finisher. Let's discount them at the minute. Man United, similarly, they're overshooting their numbers in terms of points won this season by quite a margin. If they regress to the mean and stay at the level of performance they are, let's discount them for the minute. It's still 5 teams without considering Aston Villa. So has he at this point improved them to the point where everything he's done beforehand is now, by the by, he's a changed coach. He's got them playing in a different way? Because I don't see that. I see them set up in exactly the same way still at home, exactly the same way still away from home, playing very, very similar style, which he has done all the way through. They have picked up 3 wins away from home. Yes, that's the points are there. So I accept that he's at least on track to be doing it. But they beat Burnley away from home. They beat Chelsea, who had a man sent off and playing dismally away from home. And obviously now they've beat Spurs. And I'm not going to comment on the game, but people have said they didn't play well and kind of robbed it. So are we on track here just because of circumstance? Or has he actually improved them enough to be the 4th best team at this minute? Because I'm still saying no.
So, just for context, last season under Unai Emery, they won 6 games away from home. So that feeds into your point as well, that, you know, they are set up a certain way. I don't think they'll get top 4. I didn't think they'd get top 4. Pre-season, at no point this season have they, to me, stood out as a team that will get top 4. I do think they can challenge for it, but I think they'll fall short. Now, what could go in their favour? You mentioned United, how poor they've been, but they're getting results. At some point, the wheels will fall off. Chelsea have been dreadful, and your friend is utterly deluded if he thinks they're going to get top 4. Spurs are in year 1 under Postecoglou and undergoing an enormous change in identity. Now, as for the game yesterday, I actually thought Villa played pretty well. I thought both sides played well. It was a fun game to watch. But it was a Spurs team that we should point out missing 5 starters. Van de Ven, Romero, Bissouma, Matar Sarr and Maddison, all missing. So it's not like it's full-strength Spurs. But with Spurs, I mean, there is always the potential for them to do a Spurs and just go on they're on a run at the moment of 3 straight defeats, but, come March, April, you wouldn't be surprised to see them again lose 3 or 4 in a row, because that's just kind of ingrained in who they are. Newcastle are very hit and miss this year and have had injuries, have had suspensions. There's always a possibility that they go through a lean spell as well, where they might draw 5 or 6 games in a row, as they have a couple of times under Eddie Howe. So there is a path to Villa finding their way into the top 4, because realistically, in the league at the moment, there's 3 good teams. There's no great team in the league right now. There's 3 good teams. There's City, Arsenal, and ourselves. And then everybody else is a bit of a mixed bag. And some weeks could turn up and be great, and some weeks can turn up and be awful. Now, the one thing that's very much feeding into Villa's favour this season, Premier League, they've played 13 games. Martinez has started 12 of them. Cash, Konza, and Digne have all started 13, and Pau Torres has started 12 and come off the bench in the other. Very settled goalkeeper back 4. Douglas Luiz, John McGinn, and Boubacar Kamara have all started all 13 games. So a very settled midfield. The fourth midfield position has been a bit of a rotating cast. Zaniolo has started a few games there. Yuri Tielemans started a game there. Leon Bailey started a couple of games there. And in attack, Watkins and Diaby have both started all 13 games. So he's had a very settled team. There's only one spot in his team that isn't, that's the guy who starts there every single week. Everywhere else, everybody else is entrenched. Remember last season when Arsenal were running away with the league, when they won the league in October and November, and took 50 points from their first 19 games and were the greatest team we'd ever seen. What did we say on this podcast about them? It'll get harder when they have to start rotating, when the games start to build up, when you have to play 3 games in a week. Now, Villa, to be fair, are playing 3 games in a week at the moment, but they're playing in the Conference League. They can send out reserve teams in the Conference League and win games. Now, a lot of the players like McGinn and others are playing Conference League games for them, but they're not having to start every game. Douglas Luiz has only started 3 games in Europe for them this season. Matty Cash has started 1. Pau Torres has started 2. Ollie Watkins has only started 3, and Moussa Diaby has only started 2. So they are able to rotate in those games. In the back half of the season, if they're in the knockout phase of that competition, they will want to win it. Emery will definitely want to win it, because that's what he does. He wins European competitions. Second-tier European competitions, obviously, but he still wins European competitions. When they have to play their first team in both League and Europe, and the FA Cup comes into effect as well, then I think we'll see Villa start to struggle a little bit, because the squad is not hugely deep. Like, you look at the right back situation, you've got Matty Cash and the backup is Konza. There isn't another real backup in that squad bar Callum Chambers, who's not very good. At centre-back, because of the injury to Mings, the only kind of rotation option they've got right now is Diego Carlos, because nobody wants to see Clement Lenglet playing games of football. In midfield, you've got Tielemans. Beyond that, it's a little bit light. Then Donker's a decent player, but he has declined. Buendia is out. You're looking at, hoping that Jacob Ramsey gets back soon, because he's missed pretty much the entire season. Only 4 appearances and no starts so far this year in all competitions. Like, an injury or two and the game starting to mount up on them, and that's where I think they'll run into trouble, because the squad isn't deep enough. That's why I don't think they'll get top 4. They're on a great run. It has been an absolutely brilliant run, and he has done a brilliant job for a spend of about 110 million. he has done an outstanding job. And I'm higher on him than you are, but like you, I don't think he'll ever win a league title with someone that isn't PSG in a one-horse race. I think he's a really good cup manager. If you're a team like Villa or like Sevilla or whoever who knows that realistically the chance of you winning the league are very, very slim, but you could potentially win a League Cup, an FA Cup, or a secondary European competition, that's where Unai Emery is the ideal manager. Like, he's the guy you go and get if your aim is sort of 5th to 8th, do really well in those European competitions and win the odd cup. That's where Unai Emery is right in a sweet spot, where there's not immense amounts of pressure as well. But I do just think for what he's working with, what he took over, what he spent, I just do think he deserves credit for an outstanding job over the last 12 months.
I agree. He's done exceptionally well. To be fourth at any stage of the season is really good for Villa. So yes, he has. I've never tried to hide when a manager has done well or better than expected or anything of the sort. I just, the conversation now is, will they finish there? And no is my answer, and for all of those reasons. But yeah, he's been exceptional.
Yeah, I would say no as well. They could, but I don't think it's likely. I think at the moment, if I was to pick one, I think it'll be Spurs. I know they're in a bad run at the moment. They're the 5th team in Premier League history to lose 3 straight games after going 1-0 up. I think the first in 9 years since Leicester did it in 2014. But they are missing 5 starters. You take 5 starters out of any team, especially 5 who have been outstanding this year. I mean, there are legitimate cases for all of them being in the team of the season so far. Van de Ven has been incredible. Romero's been outstanding, bar that Chelsea game. Basuma has been absolutely immense. Matar Sarr is the breakthrough player of the season so far. And James Maddison looks like maybe the signing of the summer. He's been sensational as well. So take, if it was Liverpool and we took Ibu, Virgil, Alexis, Dominic, and a Trent out of the team, we'd struggle as well. So it's not a surprise that they're in this little bit of a rut while those players are out. And it was notable that even without his centre-backs, Eric Dyer was banished to the bench yesterday, and Emerson Royale played at centre-back for Spurs.
Yeah, there's things still to do in terms of the squad at Spurs, but I think even just style of play, to be honest, they will win more games than quite a lot of teams just because they'll keep attacking. So that's what Ange is, and that's what he's very, very, very good at.
Yeah, I mean, they could easily have won yesterday's game. They had chances. They hit the woodwork a couple of times. But again, Villa had some chances as well, and they had a goal disallowed. And I thought it was a really good game. I really did enjoy the game. And it was nice to see Giovanni Lo Celso scoring. It was a shame to see Rodrigo Bentancur get forced off with an injury after a really bad tackle by Matty Cash that I thought he was a little bit lucky to stay on from. But there's a lot to like about this Villa team. I mean, I think the midfield pairing, Luiz and Kamara, are as good as any in the league right now, just on current form. I think Kamara, if we're serious about getting back to the mountaintop, he's someone we need to be looking at because he ticks pretty much every box: age profile, ability, potential for growth. He's also incredibly versatile. He can play right back, he can play left back, he can play centre back. He brings leadership and organisation. He's a great communicator, very mature head and shoulders for such a young player. He, for me, of all the realistic options, now Czech Doucouré's injury at the weekend is unfortunate. He might be out for the season. But if it was a choice between Kamara, Doucouré, Paulinho, and whoever else is being mentioned, I think Kamara is the one to go and get because he's only been playing this position for 3.5 years and he's already one of the best in Europe. I think after Rodri, he's probably the best in the league. He's just turned 24 a couple of days ago. He's already got vast experience, 242 games under his belt, 214 of them at senior level. The others were with Marseille's reserve teams in the lower leagues. But, you know, he was captain of Marseille at a young age. If the rumour of him having a buyout in his contract next summer, if they don't get top four, is true, I think we need to be kicking down the door on that one.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be one. We were even linked with him when he left. Was it was for free? He left them in the end.
Yeah, he went on a free. Yeah. I brought him up on the transfer committee pod about 4 years ago, and then about 3 years ago, and we were all high on the idea of bringing him in as a utility player who could be molded as the
playing across the back line at the time as well, wasn't he?
That's the thing. I mean, when he broke into the team, he came in as left back at Marseille at 17. And looked like he'd been there for years, like just wasn't at all fazed by it. And Marseille is one of the more intimidating crowds in Europe when that crowd is really on it. And he was just happy out, no problem to him. He's just a tremendous player, a genuinely tremendous player. And like I said, he's just turned 24. There's still plenty of growth left in him. I would happily spend a huge amount of money to get him to the club. I think you put him next to Trent in that double pivot, I think that works a treat.
Final question then before we wrap up this pod. There are a couple more, but we can do them for the Lask podcast as well that we do this week, because nobody wants 90 minutes on Lask, let's be honest. A question from Discord from Matt JT. A couple of weeks ago, Dave mentioned he'd like the idea of us investing a decent amount of money in 3 or 4 youth players like Gray at Leeds. Who are some other players in that bracket you would like to see us go after? So let's say 18 and under.
Yeah, so Archie Gray is absolutely top of that list for me. I think that is a very, very special talent. He's only 17. He doesn't turn 18 till next March. He's a regular now for Leeds, playing in the Championship, which, as we know, is a very, very physical league. A very grown-up league. Like you're not playing in that league without a level of maturity to your game. So he would definitely be one. Gabriel Mascardo of Corinthians is another. He's just turned 18 back in September. He's a pure defensive midfielder, good on the ball, but an absolute monster at winning the ball back. Very much a fan of him and what he could potentially bring to us if we were to make that move. He is available. Well, all players in Brazil are available if you're willing to pay the money. So he would definitely be another that I would be willing to pay significant cash for. I really like the look of Joral Hato at Ajax as that sort of left-footed, left-back, centre-back type. He's always impressed me whenever I've watched him play. And so I wouldn't be against going for him. We were linked with Ouedraogo, the young midfielder from Schalke. He's outstanding. I mean, he has everything you would want in a modern midfielder. Big, powerful, athletic, really good technical side. We're seeing more, like, we used to get the sort of big, powerful midfielders that they could dribble, but they couldn't pass, or they could pass, they couldn't dribble, or they were just destroyer types. Now we're seeing more and more these players that can do a little bit of everything. And I think that's a really exciting sign for the future of the game, that we're getting more and more of these big, powerful athletes who've got this elite technical level. Because we grew up with Ruud Gullit and Frank Rijkaard, who were, 6'3", 6'4", but had incredible technical level. There's a young centre-back called Lenny Yoro, who I'm very much in favour of as well.
He's just about to mention it was my first one as well, to be honest.
Yeah, at Lille. He to me looks like he's got, like, 100 caps for France written all over him.
I haven't seen much of him, but I watched the Lyon game this weekend, and he was, well, unflappable, I think is a good word.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's that Virgil type of demeanor that is just standout with him, where you watch him play and you just think nothing at all is bothering you. So him as like a Virgil successor is something I'd be very, very interested in. And the last one, I mean, I really like Lewis Miley at Newcastle, but there's just no way you'd be getting hold of him at this point, because like with having that kind of money, I think they're going to be holding on to him. But I'm always in favor of tapping into places that we've had success buying from before. We've had success buying from the Bundesliga before. And there's a German midfielder at Hertha Berlin called Ben Stardé, whose father is Paul Dardai, the former Hungarian international and manager. He really does look a good player. Again, he's a big, powerful individual, 6'2", but great technical side, great mentality. Like, you can tell he grew up being schooled to be a footballer, completely unflappable, has just immense confidence in his ability. So Ben Stardé is another one that would be of great interest to me.
Yeah, decent. I'll add Asani Diao to the list.
That's a good shout.
Winger. Yeah, Real Betis. Very, very lightweight at the minute. Very obviously young. He was only 18. Lots and lots to learn in terms of the game, but on the
big
ball,
tall winger as well, though. I do love a tall winger.
He's rangy, isn't he? I think that's how we like to say tall wingers. He's really good technically, like really, really good, and I think his appreciation of space, his movement into space, and where he runs with the ball is pretty good as well. I think he's definitely one to at least bear watching for a little bit longer. I wonder whether you would say Jobe Bellingham. You've obviously mentioned him before. Whether you still think he's of that level. I haven't seen him at Sunderland this season.
He's had a great start to life at Sunderland. Like, he looks really confident in his ability. He's got...
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac, and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes, and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
He's a bit more Gravenberch than his brother. Like, he's got that sort of ability to just drift past players with the ball at his feet. Jude does it as well, but when Jude does it, there's like an explosive burst to his game. Jobe has a bit more grace in those type of areas. He's a confident finisher. He's a good passer of the ball. I don't know what his ceiling will be. It will come down to, you know, how lucky he is with injuries and dedication to the game, which obviously he's going to have, you know, a strong mindset given who his brother is, and the family seem very well balanced, and everything is, the environment he has around him, like his circle, seems to be very positive, as we've seen with Jude. Sunderland has been a bit of a black hole for players, though, but in recent years that has changed, and we've seen Jack Clarke as an example, who came through at Leeds, looked really, really promising, got the move to Spurs. It was far too early for him, went to Sunderland and he's been magnificent since going up there. If Job can develop the way Jack Clark has, he's definitely going to be a Premier League caliber midfielder quite soon. The question is, can he be a central midfielder in the Premier League? Is the defensive side of the game going to get there? Because right now, defensively, he's a bit of a black hole. He just tends to disappear. And in the shape that they play, that sort of 4-1-4-1, he is given a lot of freedom because you've got Neil and Ekwa in there with them, and they do most of the defensive work. So he can kind of just focus on the attacking side of things. Speaking of Ekwa, he's one to watch as well. He's really promising as a ball-winning, shielding midfielder. Someone that I think is definitely going to be coming back to a Premier League club. It was a great get for Sunderland to get him out of West Ham. I'm not sure what West Ham were thinking letting him go. But yeah, I think Job has a real chance to be a very good player. I don't think he'll be Jude kind of special, but I think he can be a really good player. I wouldn't be against a move for him. I would just worry that we have a lot of eights and he has to be the attacking one. And we've already got Dominic and Gravenberch and Harvey and Bobby Clark. And I wonder, would he just get lost in the shuffle a little bit with Liverpool?
And as a final question for you, in the Premier League this season, how many players aged 18 or younger do you think we've had this season? As in, how many have made an appearance? And of those, how many of them have played 150 minutes or more?
Oh, wow. Let me just pull the Premier League table up.
We're a third of the way through the campaign now, so we're looking at teenagers, not 19-year-olds, so 18 or under.
18 or under. Now, does Rico Lewis count? Because he's just turned 19.
So no. So who are 18 right now?
Right. Okay. So nobody at Arsenal, nobody at City, nobody with us. Quance 19, isn't he? 20.
One with us.
One with us?
Yep.
Oh, Ben Doak.
A mighty 13 minutes.
Yeah. Nobody with Villa, I don't think. Nobody with Spurs. Is Kobe Manu 19 or 18? Well, just Kobe.
He's 18 and he's played
Garnacho's quite young, isn't he?
Garnacho's older. Manu has played once.
Yeah, he played yesterday. And got outplayed for the large part by an Everton midfield, and yet this morning I'm reading that he's the future of England. Now, he does look a very talented player, and he made a great goal line clearance, but, let's calm down. Lewis Miley.
Yep.
For Toon.
Twice now.
Yeah. Brighton. Is Evans still 18?
No.
No, Evans gone 19. Is Hinchelwood 18?
Yes, Hinchelwood's one, and they've one other as well.
They've one other. The goalkeeper's not 18.
No, we've spoken about him quite a bit, to be fair. You probably wouldn't expect him still to be 18, but he is.
Buenanote?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just how is he still 18? Seems like they bought him like 3 years ago. West Ham, I can't think of anybody.
No.
Brentford, Yarmulke, I think, is 19 or 20, so it's not him. Don't think there's anybody else there that's played. Wolves. No. Palace might have had one.
Palace have had one. Palace have had one who has played 3 minutes, David Ozo.
Yeah. No one at Forest. No one at Fulham.
Luke Harris, one appearance for Fulham.
Luke Harris. Jerseys. He's from Jersey or somewhere, isn't he? He's a Welsh kid. Welsh international. Really talented. Really, really talented. Potentially the next one that we nick out off them. Can't imagine there's anyone at Luton that's played. Or Bournemouth. Sheffield United might have had one.
Ryan O'Neill.
Yeah. Nobody at the Ev. Oh, is Chermeti 18? No. Burnley might have had one.
Will's not about.
Yeah, he'd be the only one. Yeah, because Koloashu's 19, isn't he? Or 19 or 20. So what's that, about 7 or 8?
So there's 11 altogether, as Newcastle also have another one, which we didn't mention, Ben Parkinson. I don't remember him playing, but he's played once as sub. Maybe that was this weekend. And Chelsea's Washington, David Washington, has played once as well. David Washington,
of course.
So 11 and 18 or under. That's it.
And who's played the most minutes out of that group? Odegaard, probably.
Buonanotte.
Oh.
Buonanotte has played 167 minutes across 5 appearances. That's it.
Jesus.
It's really low at the minute this year.
It's really, really low. Like, Archie Gray's probably played more minutes for Leeds than all of them kids have together.
Archie's on 1280 and Job on 1290. So
yeah,
easily more.
Crazy.
There you go. A few that we can still keep an eye on anyway.
Yeah, very much. I mean, you've mentioned it before, like that Koloashu kid at Burnley, he looks a player as well. Yeah. It'll probably be the next manager who gets to benefit from them. And that's assuming that they can keep them. But I actually think I look at that Burnley squad and I think if you could get a 9, like a reliable goal-scoring 9, a lead centre-back, and maybe one more in midfield who's like a better version of what Jack Cork used to be, that wouldn't be a bad squad. You've got a good goalkeeper. The fullbacks are decent. O'Shea and Bayer are decent. Berg is decent. Brownhill's decent. Like, there's some decent players in the defence, and then there's some really exciting players in the attack. Amdoni's really exciting. Odebert and Koloashu. You could put together a fairly good team. So if they do go down, if they can keep a lot of those players, they're only a few away from, I think, being able to come back up and be a much better outfit. Now, again, I think it'll be the next manager, because I don't think Vincent Kompany's going to last a whole lot longer. I think there's a question for you. If you had to guess, who's more likely to be gone by Christmas, Vincent Kompany or Paul Heckingbottom at Sheffield United?
Kompany. I think they had more expectation than Sheffield United did at the start of the season. Yeah,
they spent a lot more money as well, didn't they? I mean, Sheffield United lost probably their 2 best players in Sander Berge and Iliman Ndiaye. I know they signed Hammer and Cameron Archer, and they're very good players, but other than Vinicius Sosa, I don't think they really added anybody else that you'd look at and say, oh, that's they did bring in Luke Thomas on loan, but it's a loan. They didn't really do anywhere near enough to turn that from a championship squad into a Premier League squad. They were screaming out for a goalkeeper, and they didn't get linked with anyone in the summer. So I don't know. Right. We will leave it there. Tomorrow we will record Lask. So we'll do the rest of the questions that we have from Discord, and probably 20 minutes on Lask, because I don't know about you, Karl, but I couldn't tell you a single result they've had since the last time we played them, other than I know that they're not better than us and they're not ahead of us in the Europa League. So I don't know other than that.
Well, we'll save all the surprises for tomorrow's pod, but they did win 1-0 at the weekend, so there you go.
There we go. They're in form. Right. We will be back tomorrow then, so have a nice day, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index, and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
Social Podcast Network.